colored for robbery. So it's gonna legalize robbery, that'll solve the problem, right? Like, I don't think that this is the solution by saying, yeah, go ahead, we're just have at it, see how it works out, right? Like, maybe that's not the way that we need to go about it.
Well, that seems slightly unfair. Now, I'm just a simple country professor, not a professional debater, like everyone here. But I mean, the point is not, this will solve racism, you know, Jesus appears again, he goes to Sydney for 4 years, right? All world problems are solved. Notice how quickly I've become a demagogue. I mean, this is unjust. And yeah, and I want to be upfront. What you're proposing in terms of decriminalization does address that injustice. It's not the only injustice here. But I do want to raise a different point. If I could get a couple of volunteers. Mr. Hannah? Sure. Come up here. Mr. Crum, come up here. I'm going to engage in some shameless pandering. Can you take one of these and pass that, give it on to that back of the room, that thing? Show me a handout. Look at that. Oh, yeah.
So that they know what's...
I mean, one of the dilemmas is cause and correlation. And I do not disagree with you. This is an image, a page from the 1918 Hamden-Sydney yearbook. Oh my. And the reason I'm raising this is somehow, if we go back 100 years, 200 years, this was not a problem. I mean, yes, probably people were dying. Yes, there were issues, but not the kind of problem it is today. And so what I want to suggest is absolutely, when we want to help people, especially people that are in need that turn to this, yeah, we should be doing that. One of the problems right now is we don't know, does marijuana actually cause mental illness, or is it that people with susceptibility to mental illness are drawn to it? And the reason we don't know is because as a class 1 drug, you can't really do a lot of studies. Right. So the National Academy of Sciences looked at this, and it's tricky. I'm not sure they're firmly linked. And I guess what I mean by that is the void a modern issue that marijuana and other drugs, alcohol, tobacco, opioids, very serious things, flood into? To put it another way, once the void is addressed, then what's the problem in legalizing, as it were? Because then it's not an issue. So there may be maybe there are disputes about timing as much as anything else. For those of you who haven't gotten it, what everybody's getting is a copy from 1918 of the Weed Club here at Hampden-Sydney. You'll notice that apparently it's casual and habitual users. Perpetual and occasional. And I don't mean this badly, but either this was a problem for the Venables, for God's sake, or there was something different here back then. And so I agree with you. Maybe there's something about society that's changed. Is it modern anxiety, a change in the United States? I don't know, Taylor Swift? I'm willing to buy that. Sorry, gentlemen.
Well, I think you're pointing to a situation that there are a lot of things going on there. Basic things like, I was born in 1968. In 68, there were 3.3 billion people on the rock, right? Now there's over 7.5. That creates stress. You take 7.5 billion of any primate on this planet and let them run loose and see what happens, right? You can't put 50 chimps in one tribe, they'll start killing each other, right? So it's challenging, it is. And there's a lot of challenges. Once again, the opposition is just saying that this isn't necessarily the way to go about doing it, by just continuing to open the floodgates to escape. Because what we're doing is we're offering people more opportunity not to deal with the problem. And once again, I agree with you on the whole correlation between, is it the 8 times, people who commit suicide, or people who smoke marijuana are 8 times more likely to commit suicide, 3 times more likely to be schizophrenic. Is that just that people who are depressed and schizophrenic are reaching out for help, and this is how they're managing it? And typically because it's a socioeconomic challenge. And this is something they can get a hold of because it doesn't involve insurance, right? So no, I agree. I think there's real challenges there.
And to talk about how you bring this void to a modern issue, I don't see it as a modern issue whatsoever. Now it's just being explicated even more so in the modern times because of our easy access to all types of information through social media and all these things. All of these things are much more prevalent, and we're aware of all these things more. But I think this void has been not only there, but been attempted to be suppressed or fulfilled, like throughout human history that we can read about in a lot of ways. But I don't think that has it ever been or is now the government's job to fill that void. It's rather what we're saying is that it's the government's job to explain how this is not sufficient to fulfill this void.
So it'll stop you from feeling better with marijuana, but hey, go feel better.
No. Explaining that marijuana is not actually making you feel better. It's hiding.
So what would be the issue with educational courses and then allowing rationally informed individuals to make a decision?
Because that's already happening and it's not really working. You never had an alcohol class ever? You didn't have all the posters as a kid about, right? You know, smoking's bad, it'll kill you. You know, alcohol's bad, yeah. I mean, we've had this our whole lives, and yet still people are dying every day from alcohol consumption, and right?
Well, yeah, of course.
It's not currently working.
Well, but so I guess my question is, I don't see why, if we're both worried about the same thing, this void that people are trying to fill in the world, why are we sectioning off one of the safest options in helping relieve the tensions of the modern world? And I'm not saying get so stoned that you jump off of a building because you ate 15 edibles. Now, that being said, the concentration of the strength of a chemical, specifically something like marijuana, is an economic principle that if it's illegal, it becomes more potent. That way you can travel with more of it and have a greater profit. So the longer it's illegal, the stronger the stuff's going to get. That's why today we don't have just people smoking joints. We have concentrated oils and waxes, things like that. I don't see why saying, okay, you can't just go off and smoke a joint. Instead, you can, on your health plan, go to your doctor, complain of anxiety, get a whole bunch of Xanax, and go that route. I don't see why we're, forcing one option over the other.
Right, so part of it is that Xanax has been tested thoroughly, or at least considerably, at least more than marijuana. So put yourself, I'm assuming somewhere in the future, and your middle schooler, it comes to light that they've been drinking, right? So your solution is, honey, no, here, light this joint. This is a better solution, right? So this is the point that we're making. We don't want to offer them this as the solution. There are other solutions in society to manage the challenge.
Final questions between each side, and then we'll roll into Q&A.
Okay.
We'll start with the affirmation.
I guess my final question is, again, I'm not suggesting giving your 12-year-old a joint. Are you saying that a fully developed, rational adult who has been informed of the risks shouldn't be able to go out to the store up the street and buy, a tall boy and a joint?
Okay.
I know this isn't like a weekly thing. This is like, oh, it's fight night. It's the one time a year.
Well, but the thing, I think the thing is what we're seeing in states like Colorado who have it legalized is that the effects or the legalization of recreational use isn't just limited to those people that can make these rational choices as you're pointing to and go just limit themselves to a joint once a week, but rather it's spilling over to the younger kids that it's not legalized to, because they're seeing through legalization it becomes normalized within society, and so they're looking up and they're seeing their dad or their mom or their older brother or older sister smoking a joint, and they're saying, what's the big deal if I can't? I'm only a couple of years younger. And so we have these effects just spilling down, and there's no way to maintain the users of those who can handle it.
And then, I'm sure nobody here has ever had a drink with their parents, right? Underage? Never? So there's 3 of you that haven't. Hey, here's for your no, but you hear what I'm saying, right? It's real easy to then, because, well, mom and dad, why are you doing that and I can't, right? It's real easy. Not only that, but then you have to lock it up, then because it's going to make its way down. And this doesn't, it's getting out to everybody. So all we're saying is better stem the tide, right? It's already there. People are using it. It's a challenge that we're facing. But let's stem the tide as much as possible, not just open the floodgate.
Any final questions from negation?
Okay.
All right, with that, everyone, we'll go into an open Q&A from the audience. These will be moderated. We'll start with you.
Alright,
To whomever.
for the opposition, I heard you earlier make a statement about for first offense with marijuana, be a warning, perhaps fine, and then send to rehab. Now, I'm a little bit confused with this. You know, I do happen to know of the very few marijuana addicts I've ever met, and I do, of course, feel very sorry for him, and I've made a lot of effort to try to help him. But marijuana addiction is extremely rare. I'm not sure exactly what the rate is, but it is amazingly uncommon. So why would rehab be an option, a main option to deal with somebody who is a repeat offender for marijuana use?
So, I live with somebody who knows a lot about this, and marijuana is highly addictive psychologically, not physically. Just like cell phones. How many of you are currently wondering what's going on your cell phone right now, right? It's hard to walk away, it's hard to put it down, especially because it makes you feel good, right? So the addiction to marijuana doesn't come as, my body needs this, I have to have it. It's, this is how I calm down. This is how I self-regulate. And you're not allowing your body, you're not allowing your behavior, you're not allowing your mental process to manage that for you. There's actually an entire form of psychology. It's actually a type of therapy that they use called motivational interviewing that is dedicated almost explicitly to marijuana users because they see absolutely no reason to stop what they're doing. But they also see pretty much no reason to do anything else either. Hence why motivational interviewing, right? So it's not the same kind of addiction as, say, for instance, heroin. But if you look at the studies on that, heroin only truly addicts 5% of the users. Marijuana is like 11. Yeah, look at the recent data.
Mr. Hannah?
Sorry.
No, you're good.
Thank you, Bobby. I also have a question for the opposition. So you had mentioned in sort of the cross debate, sort of looking at issues in larger systems, and I'm really happy you did because that means you're probably going to be sympathetic to my question here. It seems to me that the same groups that are illegally selling marijuana and other drugs on a large scale, cartels for example, are the same kinds of groups that are engaging in activities like human trafficking and sex slavery. And so I'm wondering why we wouldn't want to legalize marijuana so that they don't have that income source, so that they're less likely to engage in those other activities that we don't want.
So these are the same groups of people. The drug cartels are doing all of these things together.
I mean, that was one example.
Right, but they're doing human trafficking. They're the ones that are peddling cocaine. But marijuana, particularly coming from Mexico, is the primary product. These others are coming they're a way to balance your economic feasibility for your model, right? So if there's a crackdown on one area, then you heighten the other two. It's also really an immigration and a border issue because most of these folks are coming through in semis. Right now, there are other creative ways. So recently there was that submarine that was discovered with a whole bunch of folks on it, right? Yeah, so they're being as creative as they can, which is why, well, as we talked earlier, the wall is not going to work. Bad idea to begin with. But so legalizing one aspect of it, right, just heightens the others. You think these cartels are going out of business because you took weed off the market?
Not taking it off the market, putting it on the market, opening it up to competition, so the price goes down overall, so they're making less income.
Well, they're gonna have to stop because that market will be picked up right here in the United States, right? Give that a little bit of time and look at the states where it is legal. Right? And not only that, but you're right, the price is going down, and marijuana becomes far more prolific. But it also becomes a problem because the cartels are not losing money; they're still producing the drugs. They're just sending the harder and harder drugs across the line. And now they need to make more money from human trafficking, more money from cocaine use. So it's actually, if you want to talk about lessening the effect, the weed is actually lessening the effect.
Any other questions in the back?
This is for the opposition, to keeper. So you were talking earlier about how people smoke marijuana, take opiates, other things to fill a void in their life or to deal with some problem. But I know some people who smoke marijuana and none who do opiates and have a normal life. But some who smoke marijuana and they seem to have a normal life. They have relationships with other sexes. They find and work. They've gone